What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of the A24 Archive. This is the series where I go back through A24's entire catalog from their first film to their most current film, and I've been having a blast doing this. I feel like I've watched a lot of films that have been on my watch list for a while, or ones that I probably would have never seen, and this is one that has been on my watch list for quite some time now, and I just hadn't gotten around to seeing it yet. And the film I'm going to be talking about today is The End of the Tour. The End of the Tour is directed by James Ponsoldt. The story of the 5-day interview between Rolling Stone reporter David Lipsky, played by Jesse Eisenberg, and acclaimed novelist David Foster Wallace, played by Jason Segel, which took place right after the 1996 publication of Wallace's groundbreaking epic novel Infinite Jest. So this is the second film James Ponsoldt did with A24, his first film being The Spectacular Now, which I believe this is the first instance of a two-time director working with A24. And obviously, if you watch my video, I am a huge fan of The Spectacular Now. I think it is an incredible coming-of-age story. And so because I like Ponsoldt's style and cinematography and everything about that film, I was really looking forward to this. And I was unfamiliar with David Foster Wallace's work. I know of Infinite Jest. I know of some of his other books. I've never read them. But this movie was an absolute delight. It was so fascinating. It was incredible. I watched some interview footage of David Foster Wallace after I watched this film, and Jason Segel nailed this performance perfectly. And it is such a simplistic story. Jesse Eisenberg's character, David Lipsky, is this author who works for Rolling Stone as a writer, and he wants to do this piece on David Foster Wallace when Infinite Jest comes out in 1996. And the beginning of the film is telling you of his suicide, which happened several years ago, and then it jumps you back to 1996 when they're having this interview. And really the entire story is just the two of them traveling around together at the very end of Wallace's book tour for Infinite Jest. And these conversations that the two of them have together are so incredible. The dialogue is so pitch perfect. And what's great is it really paints David Foster Wallace as this really kind of eccentric but hilarious human being who seems to be incredibly empathetic and caring towards other people. And like Jesse Eisenberg gets there, and you can tell he's kind of off put by the questions at first, but he sort of like just kind of falls in with it. He treats it kind of jokingly at first, and then he really starts to have real conversations with Jesse Eisenberg's character, and the two of them start to really hit it off, and it seems like this friendship is being built, even though on the surface it's really just a job for Jesse Eisenberg. He's doing this to create this article, but what's great is their relationship develops over time, and there's also conflict that ensues when David Foster Wallace introduces Dave Lipsky to someone who he had been romantically involved with prior. And so that's a really interesting element of the film as well. And it's just really these two people traveling around together and having these conversations. And I think a lot of this movie and why it is so successful is due to those performances. Like I said, Jason Segel's performance is unbelievable. He's so into this character. The mannerisms, just everything about the way that he acts is so on par to the interview footage I watched with David Foster Wallace. It's so accurate to him. And I did not watch any interviews with David Lipsky, but Jesse Eisenberg does give a really great performance. You can tell at first like he's doing what he can to manipulate him in any way to get things for the article. But then when it comes to, there's these rumors that David Foster Wallace was addicted to heroin for a while, and that he was using, and that it caused him to go into this space where he ended up having to go in and be on suicide watch. And the editor of the newspaper really wants Dave Lipsky to push on that question, and he doesn't feel like that's okay, and he doesn't want to push on that question. And so he kind of holds off on it as long as he can. And the two's friendship and that bond that they form together really makes it difficult for Lipsky to ask those questions. And what I think is interesting is how the questions get more personal over time, but also how you can see Lipsky will ask Wallace a certain question and kind of pull back on it. And it's just so fascinating. And it seemed like David Foster Wallace was just this really intellectual human being with a great sense of humor, who wrote this 1,000-page novel that people just were absolutely obsessed with. And I will say it made me incredibly interested to read Infinite Jest. I added a bunch of David Foster Wallace's stuff to my my Goodreads because I really would like to check out some of his work. This movie just paints him to be this super fascinating and enigmatic human being that I want to know more about. And The best movies are like that. I said in my last A24 archive video about Amy Winehouse, that documentary, I didn't know anything about Amy Winehouse's life, and that film really kind of just made me totally interested in her music and her work. And I love when films can do that, when they can really draw you in and just get you completely and totally interested in a person that you may not have known anything about prior. And The End of the Tour does that incredibly well. This movie is fantastic. It's definitely in my top 5 or 6, I think, of A24's catalog of the 20. I believe this is the 24th film in A24's catalog that I've watched, and I think this is definitely in the top 5 or 6 of the ones that I have seen. So have you seen The End of the Tour? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was brilliant. Great performances, excellent cinematography and direction, and it was just a real great time to watch. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.